guys from Operation Falcon 2 are about to go in for another takedown. But first, we got to finish the story of Warren Jeffs, possibly the most hunted man in America. He leads a sect that broke off from the Mormon Church more than 100 years ago. And for a while now, they've lived in Colorado City, a town on the Arizona-Utah border. For years, the sect known as the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, or FLDS, remained in virtual obscurity in Colorado City. Then in the late 1980s, wealthy Utah businessman Rulon Jeffs seized control. Soon Rulon was grooming a teenage Warren to take his place.
I've been thinking about college for you, Warren.
Really, Father?
If any one of my children deserve it, it's you.
Thank you, Father.
In his youth, Warren would take advantage of the fact that he was the favored son of my father and would undergo his game plan to satisfy his sexual indulgences and activities with boys, with girls, with young girls. It didn't seem to matter.
You tell on me, and you know what Daddy will do to you.
Warren Jeffs just stuck to Daddy. He got put through college, which is rare. It's rare out there. And he was fascinated with Hitler books. He was obsessed with the power and the control.
Jeff started taking control of the church's children when his father appointed him school principal.
The other night I was watching a documentary, and in the program it was revealed that this black man was homosexual, immoral, on drugs. He was the worst kind of person.
When he found himself in front of the students, would seem to relish in this idea they could now feed them propaganda.
And then it showed the modern rock group, the Beatles. It showed them as pingy-pangy, unnoticed, useless people no one would hire. And so the leader of their group brought in
this Negro, homosexual, on drugs, and the Negro taught them how to do it. And it is to rock the soul and lead the person to immorality, corruption, to forget their prayers, to forget God. And thus the whole world has partaken of the spirit of the Negro race.
He succeeded week after week and year after year in getting the minds of the people so attuned to perfect obedience that now he could make a move to begin to take over the mind of the prophet.
He was choosing the brides for his father. So he would choose the most beautiful, 14, 15-year-old wives.
I'll make sure they remember your name. My legacy will be your legacy.
At his father's passing, he went in and married 34 of those girls, of his father's. And the ones that were a little older, he passed them out among the boys. So this man's, he's insane. He believes that he is the spokesman for God.
Warren has demanded, total obedience to the prophet. For instance, I've asked kids here if they know who the president is, and they say, yeah, Warren Jeffs is the president.
Many young men, when they receive their first wife, are just so untrained.
Everybody's required here to give $1,000 a month. And if there's, say, just only 1,000 people giving $1,000 a month, that's $1 million.
The woman, if she is not careful, will become overbearing and will always ask permission for what she wants.
And ladies, build up your husband by being submissive.
Unless you're an obedient wife who does whatever her polygamist husband tells her to do, you will burn in hell. Young girls are told, you're going to get married when I tell you at 14, 15, 16 years old.
He was 16 years older than I was.
Sarah, don't tip your brother. Be careful.
When he was told to marry me, he already had 20 kids with other women. He knew it was against the outside world. He's a police officer. He knows he's not supposed to marry a 16-year-old and he's 32 years old.
How's it going?
Fine, if I could get the kids to settle down and finish 5 more loads of laundry.
Well, if you're on laundry, it must be Eleanor's week to cook. That's good. I like her chicken better.
I felt like I was a slave. I would cook for 1 week, and then I would do laundry for 1 week, and then I'd tend the kids for 1 week. There was 3 of us, and that's how my life went.
Other couples fell under Jeff's control in more devious ways.
So these young women who are married to these men, while they're married and they act as husband and wife, they march into the welfare office and sign up as unwed mothers, and they want assistance for their 8 children. They refer to it as bleeding the beast. They hate the government. They don't recognize the government. Hey, but we'll be glad to take the government's cash. The school district there has been a real cash cow. The bottom line is, Warren Jeffs pulled all the kids out of the public schools, but he let his followers continue to control the school district. So they're educating a handful of kids from some neighboring communities. None of their kids go there, but they've been just sucking in just astronomical amounts of cash for a little school district. They were bouncing checks to their teachers while these polygamous cronies who run the school district were buying themselves an airplane.
I have an important mission for you, James, and you must not tell anyone. I need you to look in on Mark Lawler and his family. I don't like what I'm hearing.
Yes, Prophet. The usual?
There's lots of correlations between Warren Jeffs and Nazism. He has their missionary program, but I compare it to the Hitler Youth. It's young guys that are required to go around and visit all these different households. They make reports on what's going on in these households. Whether Warren's pictures hanging up in the household, whether they have a TV in there and they're watching TV because they're not allowed to watch TV.
This is a gift from the prophet.
He would install a camera and later use it against them to tell them they have sinned beyond repair or repentance, and now take their wives from them, and these wives would be remarried within the church.
For one man to have 3 wives, 7 wives, 8 wives, for Warren to have 70 wives, you can't have a 50-50 split of boys and girls.
Yes?
Calvin, we need to talk about your son, Nate.
You got to drive some of the young boys out of the town because they threaten the possibility of these older men having all those women. That dad will then drive the kid to the edge of town at sunset and say, "So long, son." Warren Jeffs has that kind of sway. If that doesn't work, then there's this other mechanism. It's the police force in Colorado City. For many years, they have all been practicing polygamists who put Warren's word much above the law. And so Warren says, "I need this kid out of here." Well, the local cops will pull him over for some traffic violation or get him in trouble.
You can either come with me, or you can get out of town.
These are poor kids. They can't pay a fine. Unless you want to go to jail, you're going to get out of here. So they leave. And these poor young boys end up on the streets of Vegas, Salt Lake, here in Phoenix, being prostituted out, pimped out, on drugs, abused.
All of my brothers were pushed out of town.
And while Jeffs has been responsible for destroying the lives of many teenage boys, dubbed the Lost Boys, that's nothing compared to what authorities say he's done to his own family.
Well, when I was around 5 to 6 years old, our family would attend an early Sunday church meeting. Warren would grab me by my hand. He would take me down the hallway and lead me into the bathroom. He would sexually sodomize me. He told me that I had to do this. This was a part of me becoming a man. This is God's will. If you do not do this, you will burn in hell.
For years, Brett kept this a secret. He says he wasn't Jeff's only victim. and that the effects of this sexual abuse were devastating, especially on one of his brothers.
I had no idea that it was also happening to my other brothers. And when he had committed suicide, I thought down deep and I told myself, I have to come out in public. People have to know about this.
For Brent's father, Ward Jeffs, the knowledge his half-brother Warren had allegedly abused his flesh and blood is cut deep to the bone.
He is a criminal of the worst type in my book, and he has committed the worst and most heinous crimes that I would consider outside of personally taking blood.
Brent Jeffs bravely filed charges against Warren Jeffs in 2005, knowing members of the FLDS could come after him and his father. Today, they're no longer associated with the church. And neither is Ruth Stubbs. She found the courage to finally leave her husband, police officer Rodney Holm.
Oh, I was scared. I knew that the other ladies had watched me. He knew I was planning on leaving in a week. I knew I had to leave the next day if I wanted to take my kids. I called up my mom, and she came and got me.
She finally said, this is nonsense. She spoke to the prosecutors of the Attorney General's office. Ruth Stubbs, helping prosecute her polygamist cop husband, is really the most significant moment in this civil rights movement. Warren has been on the run ever since the verdict came down because he knew that if they could throw Rod Holm in jail, they could throw him in jail.
So where could Warren Jeffs be tonight? The FLDS recently purchased 2,000 acres of land in El Dorado, Texas, and constructed this enormous compound. But authorities believe it's unlikely Jeffs is there. He could be in Utah, Colorado, Canada, or Mexico. Wherever he is, Jeffs is probably surrounded by bodyguards. And listen to his voice one more time.
And it is to rock the soul and lead the person to immorality, corruption, to forget their prayers, to forget God.
If you've seen Warren Jeffs, the latest addition to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, call us at 1-800-CRIME-TV. Tell me about this guy you went after, this alleged pedophile that molested a 10-year-old boy.
We went to the wife's residence of Joe Eugene Aaron, who's wanted for aggravated sexual assault of a child. Unfortunately, they had separated a while back, and he was not there. However, we did get some decent information that we think will probably pan out for us in Fairfield, Texas, which is about 60 miles away.
This little boy had a lot of guts to come forward. How did he explain this to the teacher?
Well, he basically just, he was very upset because he looked at Eugene as a very close friend. And Eugene told him, made him feel guilty about the whole situation. It really upset him. Classic pedophile move. After he told the teacher and the teacher got police and social workers involved, you know, they actually sat the young boy down with a pad of paper and the boy drew pictures of not only just him and Eugene hanging out, but of actual graphic pictures of private parts of the body and what exactly Eugene did to him.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Later tonight, John Walsh goes back to the streets.
Police department, open the door, Henry. We're going to kick it in.
Stay here.
With the manhunters of Operation Falcon 2.